Oh, good. Okay.
Small but mighty.
Yeah.
Let's take a breath. With every breath, there is a yes in our hearts. We expand. With every breath, we move out of the confines of the ordinary and the familiar. We open up wide to infinite possibilities. We come this day in trust and in truth, trusting the wisdom and the order of the universe, trusting in the goodness of humanity.
Yes.
Trusting in divine unfoldment and right action. Trusting our own selves to be yielded and surrendered enough to listen and to act upon what we know. We come. We're knowing that this day is great, grand, and glorious, providing opportunities beyond our wildest imagination. So we step into sufficiency. We step into the power of God's grace. We don't have to know. We don't have to understand exactly how everything will unfold. Our responsibility is possibility consciousness. To keep the highest watch, to vibrate and recalibrate at the highest frequency, to be places and spaces, portals in the universe of activity. We're not just the portal, we are the activity itself. We're verbs. We're verbs of being. For everything that takes place here, we do give thanks. It is good. It is done. We get out of the way, we allow it to be, and so it is.
So it is. And so it is.
Amen. Thank you, Katie. Well, you want to do a check-in, Marilyn?
Okay. Am I muted or unmuted right now?
You're unmuted now. We hear you.
Okay. I want to express gratitude for being in a small but never dull spiritual community that's calling on me more than I would perhaps like, coming back to principles of oneness and things like the serenity prayer, when we used to say, grant me the serenity, in terms of kind of being on that cutting edge of learning and listening and responding with compassion, and just keep coming back to the principles like oneness and forgiveness and radical inclusivity, and trusting that Great Spirit knows what it's doing, even if I don't. So for all of you experiences that grow me and call on my deepest resources, I'm grateful.
Very good. Great. Well, good to have you. And which spiritual community are you with again?
I have of late been with the Home of Truth in Alameda.
Oh, you're kidding. That's where I started out in New Thought.
Oh, who's that?
Kaylee.
Oh, hi, Kaylee.
Hi. Oh, my
When
goodness.
was that?
In the, let's see, in the early 90s.
Okay,
Long
that was.
time ago.
I've only been there since 2012, but I hear stories about the whole history of the community.
Because there used to be like 120 of them all around the country.
Right. Yes, we are the last standing.
The last one.
Carrying the flag of the Sisters Rick. And
That's right.
Small world, isn't it?
Wow.
yeah.
You know what? Not trying to deserve your comfort zone, but since there's nobody here, in terms of the camera, yeah, it'd be a lot easier if you were closer to me here. Then it wouldn't be so much swivel. Yeah, why don't you come in even like a little closer over this?
Oh God, I'm really under pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, now.
Home of
Okay.
Truth Woman.
Yeah.
So you said there were things.
I
you
do.
wanted
I
to
got
say.
two really exciting things, and they're
Okay.
both from Twitter. And I know people put Twitter down, but it depends on who you follow. If you follow conscious people, you get, well, like Nate, you get wonderful things on Twitter. And the first one was an article, it's an editorial in, I think, the Washington Post, and I tried to figure out how to send it to you, but I couldn't, so I'm just telling you about it. It's by Michael Gerson, who is used to be considered a kind of a right-wing, not a rightist leading Republican, who is now a very moderate Republican. And he's real smart and really well thought out. So he says for the 4th of July, we should not be thinking about the Constitution. We should be thinking about the Declaration of Independence. And he said, as flawed as the authors may have been, there's genius in their words. So he said, let's forget about the flaws and give them their humanity. He said he wants a new suffix. So when you hear immigrants need to go away, everybody needs to rot in prison because how bad they are, women are only good because of their boobs. When you hear stuff like that, this is the new suffix. Yes, and all people are created equal, endowed by their creator with inalienable rights.
Mm-hmm.
Because those words are stamped in the heart of almost all Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put it that way, not the whole thing, when you just say all people are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable, all people are equal, endowed by their creator with rights. That's all you have to say. And it's the perfect suffix to all this crap that's going on. Because you're not saying that the stuff that's going on is evil intent or the people who hold it are evil, but it's the perfect and.
Yes.
And all people are created equal, endowed by their creator with inalienable rights, including immigrants and prisoners and women and children and the poor and the sick and the elderly and people from other countries. So I just think it's this new suffix. I'm just crazy about it. And the other one comes from Twitter also. And what we're trying to do at Inner Light is come up with a new positioning, a new strategy for the next 20 years. So this has to do with that. So it's to talk not about the religion of Jesus, but to talk about the philosophy of Jesus. Because the minute you say the philosophy of Jesus, you know it's different. And I think for a lot of people, you're going to say, that's pretty interesting. Tell me more. And even more, you could say, if you wanted to, the philosophy of Jesus of Nazareth. Because Jesus of Nazareth makes him seem like a person who had a dwelling place and had a lifetime. And so I think this could be a huge strategy for Inner Light, the philosophy of Jesus of Nazareth, because now we have tools for living from Jesus of Nazareth. And they're not saying he's the only one, but they're saying this is a point of view from one of the many masters who's lived in the world. But it's like what Ernest Holmes said originally. This was a philosophy. He never wanted to be a religion. He wanted to be a philosophy. And then it's an overlay for people who consider themselves Christian without being scary.
Yes. For
For people who, like most Americans, have a Christian orientation regardless of their current relationship to the church. But it also could be okay to spiritual quest people, because I actually am more interested in a philosophy than a religion anyway. So I think we could have tools for living based on Jesus, the philosophy of Jesus, and all of a sudden our tools for living have more meaning. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
I think this is a huge idea as kind of the umbrella, because it's where you are.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think it's exciting.
I'm excited about both of them.
Yeah. I think it's totally in alignment. I would say, as far as the notion of like the philosophy of Jesus, that it's similar to my comment about the first thing that you said, which is that there's an inclusiveness that we need. And No, it isn't about the religion. When you hear me say the religion of Jesus, not about him, it's to say that that was the phrase that Ernest Holmes used to use to try to describe new thought, to try to describe that there was something else. I know there's a piece that I had written that you are particularly fond of because you've told me on the numerous occasions about how Inner Light was founded with the idea of inclusivity and including these different things from religious practices. Although Christianity has issues with Buddhism and, you know, Islam and all the rest of that, Islam, Buddhism, and all of them don't have issues with Christianity. So what you find is that Jesus is quite welcome. He is esteemed. He is revered, you know, as a prophet, you know, as a philosopher, or saint or sacred person, however you want to put it, within the lineage of a lot of people. And I think it might serve us well to be explicit about that. We deliberately haven't called ourselves interfaith because we didn't want it to be just about religion. However, I think we can say something like, you know, as espoused by Jesus of Nazareth, as espoused by, you know, this one and that one, or in the begotten, begotten Vita.
Oh yeah, begotten Vita.
It's like bit.
I don't think I've
Or the
ever heard
Quran.
that kind of words before.
Yeah, it's just, it was like they were like all these words trying to come through at once. I had to stop the brain. And it plays into the things that I have been saying from the beginning, that we need an interfaith religion. We don't have that yet. There are interfaith organizations that bring in these different traditions, but we don't really have any place that's pulled it together, like taking the kernels out of them and come from this place of universality, a place where we all can stand and see each other in it, which was why I had gravitated to religious science, because he just wanted to be a synthesis. He didn't want to create something new. He just wanted to say what was here. But it plays right into your first comment about this new suffix. When we first started this, I started there. When we first started this series, I started with the Declaration of Independence, because within that is no doubt the genius, and that our charge now, which is the subtle shift in this language, is that it has to apply to all people. And I said that's been our problem. Not so much that there's something wrong with the concept, it's that we haven't applied it to everyone. And then when we start talking about what did the founding fathers want and what, we have to go beyond that.
Absolutely.
Because the concept has inspired democracies all over the world, you know, for generations. And even though we haven't lived up to its truth, it doesn't mean that it's less true. But we have to own it at a new level. Pain pushes until vision pulls, and we can't just incrementally do this anymore. You know, I've been saying this for months now. We can't just, you know, claw in this group and claw in that group. And, oh, can we stretch this to mean people with disabilities? Oh, can we stick religion in there? Oh, can we include sexual? just a blatant, overall, overarching everybody. And that we haven't done that yet. We really haven't. We're still doing this incremental, well, does this apply to them? And making every group like justify or try to prove that it should be included or not. And that's the wrong approach. We have to have something that's so big and so wide and so sweeping, and yes, rooted in who we already are. That's extremely important. When you look at social justice movements, there's this irony where on the outer, it looks like they're asking for change. But what they're asking for really isn't change. What they're asking for is congruence. What they are asking for is whomever is the ruling elite to live up to the very values that they say that they espouse. Okay? So the idea being, if you take a Martin Luther King, if you take a Gandhi, you know, Gandhi was a British lawyer. Saying, if we really are about a democracy, this is how it works. You know, King is a preacher. If we're really this Christian nation that we say that we are out of alignment. And this is so very important because it's not just shaming, but it's calling people up to recognize that the oppressors are hurt by their own oppression. That the oppressors are hurt by their own oppression. That their own oppressive acts are taking them further and further away from the people that they say that they are. So part of this way of doing the social change is you put people in this place of cognitive dissonance. This dissonance between their highest values and how they're acting. And basically cramming their hypocrisy down their throat is, no, really, it's pretty much what it is. That you're not even doing this for me. You're not even doing it for us. You're doing it for you. You're doing it because you are so far out of alignment with who you are and who you say that you are going to be. And if you move in this direction, you're not doing us a favor. It is incumbent upon you to move in this direction to be fully who you say you already want to be. And that's true in this notion of the Declaration of Independence, of this inalienable. But here's where the rubber meets the road. There's a beautiful letter in Your Deepest Intent, which is the second volume of my Letters from the Infinite series, which speaks of this inalienable. The question becomes, what is the source of the inalienable rights? See, what is the source of that? So they do this sleight of hand in the way the Declaration of Independence was put forth, is that we have been endowed by our Creator with these certainly inalienable rights, but they have made the inalienable rights civil. They have made the inalienable rights the secular things that we have a right to do. Okay, and nothing can stop you. It's nothing. There's nothing that you can do that can tell me I don't have the right to do this thing, and that thing. That and I love it in this letter. It says, no, you haven't been given a blank check. It's not what you've been given. You've been given a charge. You have been given a responsibility. And what is inalienable is not this package of rights. Might even get the book and read it here. It's not this package of rights. What is inalienable is your connection to me. It's a very different place on which to stand. That because we are all endowed by the same Creator, we all have this fundamental connection. And that's the other piece that the social justice stuff has been based on. What it says to the oppressors is that you aren't living up to your highest values. And if you did, you wouldn't act like this. And what it says to the ones who are being oppressed, it says, you already are what you're trying to be. It was already given to you by God, and you have the right to ask for it. You have the right to demand it, and it cannot be kept from you because it's already yours. That's very different than thinking that you're asking people to give you something, or thinking you have to give people something when the charge is get out the way. That's the charge. The charge is to dismantle all of the false constructs, paradigms, and things that have been getting in the way. We've seen this recently in our lifetime with marriage equality. We've seen this recently in our lifetime with the Voting Rights Act. The same thing. Like, look, we're not granting them this. It was already there. They already had the freedom to marry. They already had it. We have put all these false things, on top of it. So we can get, you're absolutely correct, if we can get back to the beginning, and stand there and come up with this place where it means everybody. That hasn't happened yet. That has not happened yet.
Where we've talked about a new covenant, but I'm sitting here thinking, I wonder what we really have is a new declaration. A new declaration that says all people are created equal, endowed by their Creator with rights and responsibilities. Because it's clean, it's beautiful, and we could spend 20 years on that new declaration.
I would agree with that.
What do you think, Nate?
All inclusive.
And really make it all people.
Inclusivity. Yes, no exceptions.
And I love adding the word responsibilities because we have responsibilities to each other.
Yes. Hi, Barbara.
Hey.
Any thoughts, you guys? No.
Well, Barbara just joined us, so she didn't know about that.
Yeah, but I agree. The rights are inherent. They're already there. And it's a mistake to think that we have to make changes to go out and get them and give them to people. It's a whole new paradigm. It's a new paradigm. That's what needs to happen, piece by piece.
Part of what's whirling around in me about this now is recent discussions that I just had over the weekend. So I went to Dallas.
That's right.
And I originally came in to be the guest speaker at Centers for Spiritual Living Dallas, one of the larger religious science churches, and to do a workshop. Well, there's a woman there who is African American, who happens to be a diversity trainer. She loves the Sacred Yes. She's been developing curriculum around it. They're using the Sacred Yes now in the month of July as their book of the month. And this woman, Tracy Brown, is now she's a practitioner. She's not a minister yet, but she's now over the leadership council of Centers for Spiritual Living. So that's like the highest ranking position that you can get. It's not like in the staff. And she goes there. And I also know one of their co-ministers, lesbian couple, Karen Fry, Reverend Karen Fry.
Oh, yeah.
Was one of my students in Holmes Institute and lived in the Bay Area for a number of years. So they asked me to come and speak to their African American circle. And after talking to some people, I said, you know what, I really need to talk to everybody. If we're going to do this, I need to talk to your leadership group as well. So I had a session in the morning with the Leadership Council, 20-something people, or maybe predominantly white. And then the afternoon, with maybe 30-something people, like all black. And all about new thought, this philosophy and stuff that we're talking about, and kind of what it means as a person of color being in all of this. And I'm bringing it up now because I think it's timely within this discussion about what is this that we're doing and kind of what is this that we're selling and what is this that we're promoting. So I kept raising the issue that for a lot of African Americans, they wonder, was this stuff really for me? This spiritual teaching, was it really for me? In much the same way that we wondered about the Declaration of Independence. Like, it wasn't really written for me. Am I clawing my way into something that fundamentally sort of was not for me or about me? And even if you get over that hurdle in the sense of laws and principles, there's a bigger elephant in the room that wasn't named fully, and I take responsibility for not going there on trip number 1, but I am going there on trip number 2. And that is this idea of, is it for me? That our philosophy really talks about an unlimited access to an innate power because of this inalienable connection. Okay. And there is a fear of that on the part of some people, a trauma even that we need to be aware of, because that is the source of the racial abuse. Is that, and we've seen it in the writings, this notion of who's closest to God, so to speak, who is next to God. And this idea that we're the ones that God has in favor, and it gives us this power. So there's a hesitancy, is a light way of putting it, around hearing language about this spiritual entitlement, really, which feels like not only too much to kind of imagine, not simply could it be for me, but really should it be for anybody? Listen to what I'm saying. Almost like nuclear energy. Like, okay, yeah, there's this unlimited whatever, but this is like a bad movie. And we have seen what happens when people are using this idea of their connection with God and that they have power and the rights to like do anything, as long as it's in, pursuit of their, growth and expansion and whatnot. Like, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm just bringing it up to say that sitting where I'm sitting, I know it's a challenge in terms of how we package whatever this is, how we say it, and without acknowledgement, so to speak, of the responsibility part, without the acknowledgement. And even though, because there was something that was read of Ernest Holmes that Reverend Karen Fry responsibly put forward as a little 4th of July context about this power and how we use it, and we should never use it in any way that is like against nature or like contradicts nature. And we're all nodding. Then I was thinking about the cornerstone speech of Stevenson from the Confederacy. I was thinking about the Dred Scott decision from the Supreme Court. I was thinking about all these things where they put forth, it is within the alignment of nature that these groups, in fact, are not equal. And it is no contradiction to nature that these groups, are equal. Which is just to say there's work to be done. I agree with everything that we're saying here, but there's a lot of unpacking for us to do as to this power, where we stand, what everybody is entitled to have. And our charge isn't just about articulating the entitlement, it's empowering people to use it.
That's the tools for living part.
Yes. Yeah, that's our part. Yeah, Nate.
Yeah, I was, when you're talking about how we don't include everyone, every group has to then say, well, am I included?
Mm-hmm.
One of the, in the LGBTQ community, one of the up and coming groups that are trying to be included are people who don't declare it male or female.
Mm-hmm.
There are various titles for that they assume, agender or whatever, and genderqueer, and they run up against a lot of resistance. And I mean, as a transgender person, I can understand. I have a gender identity as male, but they don't see it themselves as male or female.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Twitter, and there was an article about a baby whose parents that were able to get the baby's birth certificate to not have a gender on it. This is huge for the transgender community and the people with no gender. This is a very big accomplishment.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's great. That baby has rights. It was born with rights. That little baby was born with inclusiveness,
Mm-hmm.
And I posted it on Facebook. It was on Twitter. I posted it on Facebook, and I'm grateful for this class because of the patience it taught me. Because there were some comments that brought up some myths about being asexual or being agender, actually agender, and so I could address them. And I got some more rebuttal, and I mean, but it was really what had to do with not knowing. The person just didn't know, where these parents were coming from, and didn't know, and they were really concerned that doctors would need to know about this baby, what gender it was. And I said, I'm pretty sure the primary physician knows about the genitals and the sexual organs of this baby, but that the person was really stuck on that. But there's this concept that we all have to be male or female that we're raised up with, and it's not true. It's a myth. But the patience that I learned in this class, and to have compassion for people that just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add something real quick to that? In the Michael Gerson article I told you about the suffix, he phrased it, all men and women are created equal. And I thought, no, It has to be all people,
Yeah.
because the minute you say men and women, you have to be one of the two, or you're left out. It's got to be all people.
Yeah, everyone. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely correct. Well, you know, we're up against the debunking of a lot of paradigms that we have been holding near and dear.
Mhm.
And it's happening everywhere. It's happening on the scientific front, you know, moving away from the way that we used to view matter. You know, they refer to it as like Newtonian physics, and this understanding now that everything's energy and there isn't like matter and energy, and what that means, like for healing and our power and everything. We're really up against the idea now of races, you know, really being equal, finding out genetically there's really nothing to race genetically. It really is a social construct because our DNA is almost the same, which is why we can exchange body parts. And not only can we exchange body parts, but now we're using pig valves for people's hearts. That genetically speaking, I mean, that just breaks like all the paradigms, and of all the creatures in the world, the one that's been perhaps one of the most misaligned is the pig. And yet we're so close that the pig is someone that can be, you know, that we can interface with. So
All beings.
yeah, exactly. So the notion of the gender is another one of those where we've just had misinformation. We don't know. We have misinformation. This idea that people are born male or female just isn't true, or that people are exclusively male or female. It just isn't true. And we don't know this instance that you talked about with this child. We don't know. Statistically speaking, 1 in 2,000 births just in the United States is born with some kind of ambiguous genitalia. That's a lot of people. 1 in 2,000, that's a lot of people where they either have both or it's not quite sure. And what the practice has been up until now is for the doctors to make that decision, and even make that decision without consulting the parents. That somehow or another, but you would really have to do some kind of testing to see what kind of hormones and what's really happening internally. I can figure that out. And they've messed up a whole lot of people by these like artificial assignments and all the rest of that. But the bottom line is that we both have all of these components. We both have male, we both have female. Hormonally, it's the same tissue, which is why they can do the reassignments. And all babies will be born female unless exactly at 6 weeks there's this release of testosterone. So initially it's neither. It's an undifferentiated zygote. And so this whole kind of thing, like, you know, God made you and conceived you, it's just not true. You know, it's just not true. And what it's going to take for us to stand in this place of really the ambiguity, and this is what we have to come to grips with, is that when you affirm people, the ones who are accustomed to the status quo can often feel like they got disaffirmed.
Yes,
See,
absolutely.
this is what happens, is that if you're a female now and you have all these power and these rights, what does this say about me as a male? You know, you displace white people when you start to elevate people of color, because their identity and those who have bought in to the supremacy, where does this leave me? The battle about marriage equality wasn't even about like same-sex couples. Clearly, state by state by state, they were like, we'll give you all your rights. You can have all the same rights. Just don't call it a marriage. You can have a domestic partnership. You can do, we recognize. But if you make it a marriage, that denigrates ours. Once you have a marriage, then that dilutes what we have known of as a marriage. So whether it's mixed race kids, which there's a lot of, and increasingly a lot of, that are going to be shattering these whole notions of races we have constructed it to begin with, whether it's sex or gender identity, we're mixing it up. And the only way, back to some of the early teachings, the only way that you can have an ism is you have to be able to have people otherized. You have to be able to have mutually exclusive categories. The moment it's not either or, the justification goes down. The moment that it's not either or, you can't, the isms crumble. So there is, you know, I'd like to say folks are really concerned about these other people, but they're more concerned about the construct of male, female as they know it. Just like the bathroom stuff. You know, it's not about the people, it's about how does this impact me and my use of the bathroom. It's about it's about the people who feel like that's going to shift their world.
Without ever really thinking about it, you know?
It's dumb. Yeah, you really think about it. Yes, 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 yes. But we're on to it. This notion of the all, this thing we've been saying, it's the crises of radical inclusion. What does that mean when the all actually means all? Yeah. Is that Barbara?
Oh, hi, Barbara. You want to unmute?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. You know, we've been saying this from the beginning of this class, and it always comes down to the paradigm of oneness, and what a huge paradigm shift that will be, and that is. But it all comes down to that when you bring it down. I was talking with a 65-year-old white man who considers himself progressive and liberal and all of that. And I was telling him about Mayor Lanier's speech and taking down all the symbols of the Confederacy. And he said to me, he goes, well, I understand that. He goes, but it's a free country, and that was part of our history. So, if it's part of our history, we should be able to, and I said, well, okay, well, if you think that way, then I guess it would be okay to fly the swastika, And he goes, oh, no, you can't do that. That was horrible what they did, in Germany. That was horrible. We can't promote that kind of thing and energize that kind of thing. And I go, what we've done during slavery and the diaspora was even worse. And he's all, no, it wasn't. And I'm saying, okay, what I've found out, what I've learned is that 6 million Jewish people were affected by the Holocaust, And I was reading that close to 50 million Africans were lost just in the transatlantic slave trade. That's not even counting the ones that died at the hands of whips, chains, dogs, whatever, while they were enslaved. And he didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. He's all, oh, no, that's exaggerated. That's exaggerated. I go, no, it isn't. And so why would one horrific event in history be okay to energize and revere while another is not? And he just wasn't getting it. And it's like, you just don't understand what Africans have been through. And again, it's because of a lack of oneness. And if you don't feel at one with a person, it's really hard to shift your perspective to their perspective. And so it's kind of like a crisis in perspective taking as well.
Yes, definitely. And where the rubber hits the road here, though, you know, you see, yes, it always comes back to the oneness, because the only thing that ever needs to be healed is the sense of separation. So, you know, oneness, whatever you want to call it, love, unity, you know, that's what heals the sense of separation. That's why it's going to keep coming back to that, because that's the fundamental underlying thing in all our problems. Economic, whatever, is this separation where we are not perceiving things as interconnected, where we fail to see the interdependence of everything and how everything is coming out from the same source. But what happens here, what you need to be mindful of, is the triangle. The moment that you start talking about any of these horrific events or whatnot in history, there becomes the triangle. And nobody wants to be the villain. So what you see in this pushback and this resistance and this unwillingness that people have about looking at things, they don't want to look at anything that might put them on the side of the villain in the story. Okay? America gets to perceive itself as the hero in World War II for the work that it did in Europe. We turn a blind eye to the fact that we dropped 2 atomic bombs and that we're the only civilization in ever in history to use such weapons of mass destruction on just a whole population, you know, indiscriminate of dogs, cats, babies, just boom, and twice. That's what makes it so horrific. Like days apart when we already knew what the devastation could be. But we don't talk about that because we wouldn't be the hero. We talk about winning the war and like being a hero, but we never want to be the victim. So, I mean, we never want to be the villain. We can be the victim, we can be the hero, but nobody wants to be the villain. So that's that pushback that you get. Like, what would that say? That this went on for centuries, not just a few years, but that it went on for centuries. It would cause that cognitive dissonance that I was talking about earlier in this session of how can I hold these truths to be true? How can I talk about the land of the free and the home of the brave if all this other stuff happened? No, it didn't happen. And you'll find some people that'll do the same thing about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
That he wants to admit that and deny slavery, but then you have other people who feel like they're being implicated in the Holocaust. Oh, that didn't happen. Oh, no. That, you know, like that couldn't be. Because they can't reconcile. They can't reconcile with where that puts them within the equation. But we need more people like the New Orleans mayor that you were telling him about. We need more people who can stand in the end, who can say, yes, this is what's happened, and it's not our highest and best. Let's not dress it up. Let's not cover it up. Let's admit to where it is and what it was about, because that's where the healing takes place for everybody. I don't care whether you're talking about like global truth and reconciliation processes, or whether you're talking about an individual person taking inventory and making amends. You can't skip it. You can't do healing without it. You can't get out of addictive, abusive behavior until you own it. Look at it. Assume some responsibility for the impact and start from there to make a difference. But when we have a society here of an infallibility that we do no wrong, we hurt no one and we do no wrong, we're never wrong. And that it would be a sign of weakness to admit we had something to learn and we didn't do something right. That's a consciousness that we have to heal. There's a lot of work in front of us to be done, but it's work that has to be done. It cannot be skipped over. You can't skip over it. You can't just go to sobriety. No. No. You can't just start, oh, we're all just happy and healthy and sober and whatnot. Yeah, and you got some wreckage. Let's deal with that so we can all be free. Otherwise, the energy of it arrests us all. I can feel your wheels. Do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is my thought. Next Saturday, we're going to do a play shop here. And we don't know how many people are going to show up. But I'm thinking that we could take each of these new concepts we've been talking about and just write it down on a piece of paper. And then have people bed in random groups at random tables and discuss their first reaction to it, their very first reaction. And everybody writes one thing on a Post-it note and collect them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take questions or further explain it for only a few minutes, because it has to be able to be explained in like 2 or 3 minutes, and field questions, and then have them talk further about it. Then switch to the next thing and do this over with mixed groups of people talking. I think, and then we'll collect the little Post-it notes each time. Like if we talk about the how is tenacious love. What's your first reaction to tenacious love? And you could explain it a little bit, and then they could go into it more in group conversation. And I think we could come up with incredibly good feedback about what we're talking about and give people a chance, because the last play shop, the thing people liked so much was when they got to talk to the other people in the room, just an open dialogue. And we can have a practitioner at each, because we won't know how many tables, but we can have a practitioner at each table, just in case. But I think it could make a fabulous play shop, Rev.
Good, definitely.
Just talking about it.
Yeah.
Because these concepts are going to be pretty new to most people. Even if you've been at Inner Light since the beginning, tenacious love is something we've never talked about before. All people in roles and rights and responsibilities is something we've never really talked about before. But I'd love to it'll be a mixed group, and get their reaction. I think it'd be great.
So what we're talking about is that a week from Saturday, we have an event that's part of our Light 2.0, part of our strategic planning. We're 20 years old this year, and we're looking to the future in terms of who we are, where we want to be, who do we market to, what are our products, what are our services, where do we stand, what's our branding, basically. And the things that have been coming out of this, I think are really helping to point the direction to who we are to be as a spiritual community, and where do we put our stake? You know, what is our niche within the big milieu of global transformation? You know, what is that for us? Yeah, and we will find ways to get the community that's not local involved. You know, I've been beyond amazed and impressed because we're in the middle of this, not the middle, but coming towards the end of our refinance effort, and how this money is coming in from our broader community,
Great.
not from Santa Cruz. You know, or if they're in Santa Cruz, they're not like the everyday participants, but they love us and feel part, you know, of this community. And it's really extraordinary. And it just reminds me of how broad our base really is, and how incumbent it's going to be on us to find these ways of creating community. And I think, you know, we can do it. Yeah, definitely.
If we had stuff like these principles and a declaration and how-to tools, I bet you we could get the church in Dallas, the church in Santa Rosa, the church in Denver, the triad you talked about with Santa Cruz, San Jose, and Oakland. I bet we could start affiliates and start cross-community online groups that would be fantastic.
Oh, I agree. And I know some of the places that they're going to start. They're going to start around prayer. They're going to start around social justice and Bible interpretation. Already committed to those. Yeah.
I want to say something about that.
Yes, Marilyn.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there's a unity minister out in Brentwood who has a vision and brought people together from several unity churches, several centers for spiritual living, and some independent so going. And he's real clear that there is global transformation going on, and there's a message, and there's a receptive community for the message, but people are having trouble sustaining it and finding it, and there's value added in coming together and having a conversation across denominational lines within New Thought. So we've had one meeting so far, and the next meeting is going to be visioning on the 15th. And it has potential to be extremely powerful. And I think our challenge will be to find, through visioning, through other processes, what charged spirit would have us embrace.
Very good. Thank you. The sound was a little bad here, but I think I got it. I think what I heard you say was that there's a group that's been coming together, and you're taking a look at some of the things that we've been talking about, but you're looking at how to get synergies and collaborations and to be moving in the same direction. And that your next step is a visioning that's coming up. What's the date on that?
The 15th, Saturday the 15th.
Okay.
It's going to be at Heart and Soul.
Yeah, same day as our play shop. So we're going to be doing the same similar work at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So you're at Heart and Soul in Oakland?
That's where this particular gathering is.
Great.
We started out at Awakened Living. Whoever offers to host the next gathering. So it moves around.
Very good. Yeah, it's like now is the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time, and I know the market is right. I've been reading a lot of Joe Dispenza's stuff lately, and his name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I highly recommend him. I was introduced to him at the last Revelation conference, or maybe the one before. Okay, 2 years ago. And he was one of the ones featured in What the Bleep.
Okay.
He's an expert in sort of like the new science, and it's his commitment to help us demystify and to help bridge that gap between spirituality, you know, and science. And he's really good. He's really, really good. I love it. I love the fact that we hear the call and that we're all moving in the direction of starting to really, you know, answer the call. What made me think of him is he keeps saying that now is the time where people want to know how.
Right.
They really want to know how. They want the skills, and I'm seeing it so much, you know, post-election, that it's I still get feedback from that sermon about, you know, what if I don't want to be one with them?
Amen.
Yeah, the people are just looking for the how. And I think that it is incumbent upon us to provide things, to break it down more. You know, we say in our purpose statement, you know, through the energy of love, you know, and the revealing of our own inner light. And we got to get more specific about that.
Yep.
Okay. And really specific about the tools. We talk about the tools that we give and the sense of the tool chest. Just break it down real bite size, because that's the way consumers are taking things now. They're not necessarily, there might be some who sign up for like the whole course or this or that, but there have to be concepts that are simple enough that people can literally at least become intrigued in a few minutes, even if they don't fully understand it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a different way of organizing, but that we're here. We're here, and this is it. Yeah, this is good stuff. Considering the hour, I don't think I'm going to go into what I thought we were going to go into.
But it was great today.
But it was good.
Yeah.
No, I feel complete. This feels like an amen moment. Is there anything that anybody wants to add? For sure.
I'd just like to add, the notes taken in just half the class are halfway up her elbow.
I'm excited about this headway. I think for the longest time I've been looking for connection and finding bits and pieces here and there, and I think we all want to belong, and I think in this highly mechanized world it's very easy to be detached from original families and still feeling your value, because without significant community you don't feel a value. It doesn't matter if I'm here, it doesn't matter if I'm there, you know, I'm putting all this stuff away on my hands, on my notebook, which I never read, but it's about recognizing the truth in each and every one of us, and being able to come together and go, hey, I missed you. Hey, I really appreciated your comment last week when you did that. And coming from a Baha'i standpoint, as you know, Rev D, this is critical, but I don't think we have the steps, and we need the steps. I recently experienced a personal grief issue that I'm still dealing with. And, you know, enough of that, I want to move on. I think a lot of us feel that way. How do you make sense of getting older? What's the value of our lives if we don't have immediate family? You know, why? But I'm buttressed with the thought that it doesn't matter if you don't have kids. But I had to overcome that hurdle because I have health issues. And that's not fair, you know, I get judged. And that judgment we need to put on the back burner. because we can't move forward if we're judging each other all the time.
You know, I think you might be onto something. We have thought that the how-to should be tools, which is a really good approach. But there's another approach, and it's steps. And I'm a 12-step person. And the steps were so clear and in order. And you finished this one, and there was a place to move on. So tools is one concept we might want to look at. But steps is another concept because they are concrete. And it says, hey, you're going to start somewhere not knowing a whole lot. But just do this one thing. And when you've done that, you can move on. So I like that as a different path that we might take.
Good point.
Because steps are very reassuring because you see where you're going to get. And other people have taken the steps and you want what they have when they've gotten to the 12th step. You want that. And they'll say, just do what I did. It'll work. It'll work. Thank you.
But also connecting with community. And I love the fact that technology is helping us do that wherever we are, in whatever condition we're in, that we can't get out of our homes. I'm in Gilroy. You know, I can still plug in and feel connected. And that gives me strength. And I think we're all looking for strength.
This is good.
I just wanted to say it's so key what Susie said about that we all want to belong. I think that is really something to look at. You know, all of us. And also about the steps. It breaks what I need to do down into small, doable chunks. I can see, oh yes, I don't have to do all 12 or however many steps right now, but I could do step 1. I could work on that one. I could get that done. It's doable.
Yep. I think you just hit on something about the steps that I really needed to hear. I've been grappling.
Steps are very powerful.
What I know is that something has to happen with the letters from the infinite. That there is a way that has got to be broken down into bite-sized chunks that people can digest and create community around. Kind of like A Course in Miracles. Course in Miracles is chunky, but when Marianne Williamson did A Return to Love, it made that accessible. That there needs to be something like that, and these like study pods. And I hadn't thought of it in terms of steps. I had been thinking of it about the 13th step because I get hit with that a lot. That, you know, can we create the 13th step? But yeah, I think that has a lot of merit to it, particularly given our society and the way that things are organized.
The other thing that's wonderful about steps is you can mentor people.
Yeah, that's the point.
Down, and I don't mean down in a negative
Yeah,
way.
yeah, no.
People who are earlier in the process and help them, and there's talk about feeling connected. And mentoring people makes you feel so connected, and it's leaving your legacy.
Right.
With children or without children.
Nice.
That's how you build a movement. That's how you build a movement. And this is why the evangelicals are the fastest growing religious movement. Not around the theology, but around this piece, around the community, you know, and how they create that sense of belonging so that nobody's left out and everybody feels a part of it in a very strategic and organized way. They use a military model. Very hierarchical. So when you come in, it's like you're in boot camp. But nobody's lost. Everybody's accounted for. And you know, everybody's at their different ranks, so to speak. And there's something that's comforting in that. I'm not saying this as a judgment one way or another. I'm just saying this is a fact, that it's a military model that has been proving for their constituency base to be very effective. Like I just came out of Dallas and over the weekend, and I remember when I did something in UT Austin a number of years ago, there was something like 5 military bases around in Austin.
Oh my God.
You know, that in the Bible Belt where so many of the military bases are, you know, as well. So many of the people are already military, you know, as careers. So there's a paradigm of being and way of existing that makes sense there and gives the stability that often isn't there when people are moving around a lot. But yes, and any statistic, study of anybody will tell you that community is one of the most important things. And that's where we, as a body, have to make some real decisions about who are we going to be and how are we going to show up. Because there's only so much leaders can do in building community. It's gotta come from the heart of the people in a way that they own it.
It's funny, I was just thinking that I find this very touching, almost like I'm teary. I think one of the greatest calls to community ever is we the people.
Yes.
And we the people, anybody can join in we the people. It's so ingrained, again, in the American psyche, that if we're we the people, man, that's a big one.
Yeah. I'm with you. Let the church say amen.
Yeah.
All right.
I had a Reverend Deborah.
Yes.
I want to put something quickly. While you were speaking, thinking about the churches and a variety of Christian churches have their congregational life centered around Bible study, and often it's done in circles in people's homes, so they create community while they're studying the good book or whatever.
Yes.
And it was making me wonder, what's our equivalent of that in New Thought, or do we have one?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because we have developed one that I would like us to promote and to help spread. There's an event that we've been doing since 2000, which is, I think, a good starting point for them. It's called Pray In, where it's for 5 consecutive weeks. It's always at the beginning of the year. It used to be right at the beginning of the year, but now we started about mid-February. It is in private homes, primarily here in Santa Cruz County, although we do some in San Jose or in Santa Clara County or in Monterey County. They are facilitated by our practitioners and our practitioner students. And it's an opportunity for people to be in fellowship. They learn about prayer. They learn about the spiritual mind treatment. And this past year or two, we've really expanded it. We give the facilitators a lot of license to connect however they connect. So if you're an artist, use art. If you're, nature person, use nature, so that it's very, very authentic. And this last time, we were even more explicit about that, so that there were different pray-in groups that were using different modalities, and you knew ahead of time and could sign up for those different kinds of modalities. We also do them around focus groups, not focus groups, but like market groups. So we have Spanish speaking, there's young adult, men's outreach, parents, intergenerational play-in, for the kids. We've even done it in prison. We try to have them every day of the week except for Sunday at different times. There's morning slots, afternoon slots, evening slots. So you have a lot of variety in where you can go. And what we find is that they keep going. A lot of times they don't want to end, and we're looking at ways that we can actually do this like more often. It becomes a training ground. Our Prac 1 students are paired up with people who've already finished the program. The second year students facilitate with each other. So they've already done it, you know, at least once as an assistant. And it's probably one of the most popular things that we do. It's a wonderful opportunity for people who, quote unquote, don't do church to come in, and for people to connect, get to know some people. The prayer partners that come out of that, people have been doing for years. They still like praying with those, you know, specific people. It's an easy model, and it is something that I was determined this fall to present to some of our sister churches to see if we couldn't get more groups, more spiritual communities, at least putting their foot in the water with this, even if they don't do as full blown as we do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're begging to go at deeper and deeper levels and deeper studies. So yeah, we can talk more about that. But yeah, now is the moment. And it works. We have what? We've done it 17 times now. So I know it works. All right. So let's sing our way out of here.
Okay.
We give ourselves permission, what? To be all we can be, and we give ourselves permission to live passionate and free. So we sing now. Numbers we can all take a seat.
I give myself permission to be all I can be. Give myself permission to live passionate and free. I give myself permission to be all I can be. I give myself permission to live passionate and free.
Amen.
And we take this consciousness and we multiply it.